Hi everyone, welcome to El Frente del Este. As you guys know, this is the Eastern Front, but in Spanish. So today we're going to talk about a very unknown episode within the framework of the World War II, in which the Japanese Empire took over a very small but very important American territory. I bet that many of you guys didn't know about this. I actually didn't know until I found this book. And I'm gonna talk about this book later. But if you guys want to know more about this episode, stay here with me, give me a like, help me to share that, and let's gonna address this topic right now. So, first of all, I said before that I'm gonna talk about this book. Of course, it's important to show where I got the information from. This is the book. It's in Spanish. I know that a lot of you guys speak Spanish. If you guys are interested on this kind of book, you guys can find it in Amazon and all the marketplace that you guys know. You guys can find this kind of book. It's a very thrilling book, and I highly recommend this book if you guys read Spanish. I don't think he has any book in English so far as I'm aware, but I'm actually trying to reach him out in order to bring him over to the channel so he shed us a little light more about this topic, because he's specialized on the China front, the Asian countries involved in the World War II. So yeah, his name is Ruben Villamor. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but and all right, let's gonna address this topic because this is a very unknown, as I said before, because I didn't even know until I found this book. And it was a territory taken over by the Japanese Empire within the framework of the World War II, but also within the Alaskan campaign carried out between 1942 and 1943. So, but to understand this episode a little more, we are gonna do a brief pre-war history to understand why this took place. So first of all, we gotta harken back to 1741, in which the explorer Vides Bering discovered the Alaska territory, the Alaskan continent, and subsequently 1 year later, in 1742, this territory was taken over by the Russian Empire till 1867, when the Americans reached an agreement from the Tsar Alexander II of Russia, in which they were going to carry out the purchase of the Alaskan territory. So, but why the Americans were very interested on this territory? First of all, because the sealskin trading over there was big, also the timber trading, but especially because the strategic location that Alaska, had at that point. And then once the purchase was taking place, we gotta say that they paid $7.2 million to the Russians. So the Russians should be, getting crazy nowadays, because nowadays all of us know how important this territory is, not only in terms of location, but also in terms of the natural resources that, are on that area. So nowadays, of course, they should be crazy, and the Americas definitely have to be so happy. But let's gonna jump forward to the World War II, in which, to be more accurate, in 1942, when the Japanese Empire decided to control and to invade this area. So I'm gonna show in the map to understand this, and also talk about why the Japanese were very interested on that territory. I'm showing this in the map. For certain reasons. First of all, because of course, as I said before, the strategic location in terms of controlling the Bering Sea and the North Pacific, and also because they were going to be able to control a very good percentage of the maritime routes in the area, but also because the Japanese, I'm talking about 1942, they were in war already with the Americans. They were going to be able, I'm going to show you, to land in this area, correct, to invade not only Alaska, but in general North America, Canada, the United States, and also because the Kuril Islands that are located over here, they were already taken by the Japanese, so they could cover this area. And also, I'm not sure this, the Bering Strait, as everybody knows, is an important strait, and the Japanese were gonna be able also to cover this area because this joins or puts together the American territory with the Soviet or Russian territory at that point. So that's why they considered that was important site. So saying this, the operation to invade Alaska, codename AL Operation, carried out by May 29th, 1942, when the northeastern force of the Japanese Imperial Navy under Boshiro Hosogaya's commander would lose and race through the North Pacific, with a total of 21 vessels, among which there were the two aircraft carriers, Ryuhu and Yunyu. I'm sorry for my Japanese, I don't speak at all, I'm trying. And there were two heavy cruisers, the Takao and Maya, and 4 light cruisers, 10 destroyers, and 3 military transports, in which there were 2,500 soldiers, infantry soldiers. And other than that, among this force, there were 78 aircrafts embarked in the fleet. After sailing through the Pacific North undetected, just at the same time that the bulk of the combined Japanese fleet was gonna wage the Battle of Midway in the Central Pacific. So this force showed up right in front of the Unalaska Island by 2nd and 3rd June. So the campaign of the Aleutian Islands took place right after, carried out by June 3rd, 1942, done. There was a total of 34 aircrafts that carried out the first raid over the island, and they caused a lot of damage, but the second raid carried out on the 4th, 1942 at the same time, that caused a lot of damage as well over there, because they inflicted to the Americans 132 casualties, of which 65 were dead and 64 were wounded. They caused the destruction as well of 14 aircrafts. They sank down the passenger and freight steamship SS Northwestern, and they destroyed 2 artillery pieces. They destroyed a bunker, hospitals, a variety of armament they had over there. And on the contrary, the Japanese lost 14 aircrafts, 10 soldiers, and the American held hostage 5 Japanese pilots. And at the same time, the Japanese were able to neutralize the Dutch harbor base on this area. The one I'm showing you here in this area, it was a very important because was the only base pretty much that the Americans had over there. We have to mention the fact as well that the Americans didn't have a lot of forces over there. First of all, because they didn't consider that area as a threat, and also because they were waging the Battle of Midway at the same time. They have the most of troops on the Central Pacific. So the Japanese took over this base, they destroyed everything, but at the same time they carry out another invasion by June 7, 1942, in which a group of 1,250 soldiers swooped down on the Kiska Island, which is another island, is this over here, and they captured the island. They killed about 10 American Marines that were over there. As I said before, there was no very good defendant, and subsequently they launched themselves a total of 1,200 soldiers over the Attu Island, which is this one that I'm showing over here, which is the westernmost point of the North America. They changed their mind as well, because they first of all launched their assault over here, but they have to get back here. They didn't advance over here due to the defeat that they suffered in the Battle of Midway already. But we're gonna focus a little bit on this because the bulk of the conflict took place in the Attu Island, in which the Japanese inflicted a lot of casualties to the Americans. They suffered certain casualties as well, but the Americans reacted. They knew they have to occupy to recover this area. That's why they sent about 600,000 people or men over there to cover this area, the Alaska Peninsula and the other islands that they were not taken by the Japanese yet. They reinforced the area, and they put General Simon Bolivar, This guy has nothing to do with the Venezuelan guy, with the Simon Bolivar, the all of us know, nothing to do. They put this general that was the commander-in-chief of the military district of Alaska to recover the Adu Island. So this commander organized the operation, codenamed Land Crab Operation, in which 2 amphibious operations were going to take place, landing on the Atu Island with a force of 16,000 people of the 7th Infantry Division under Albert Brown's command. And these people were moved over there with 168 ships, many kind of ships they move over there to move that people, and they split the forces between 2 areas. The northern force was gonna take the northern slope of the Holtz Bay, and the southern force was gonna take the Massacre Bay. It was called like that because years ago the Russians carried out some crimes over there, but that's not the topic right now. So, and then the American forces were gonna join together in the Harmon Strait, and they launched themselves against the invaders, encircling the Japanese troops. But at the same time, the Japanese inflicted to the Americans an amount of 1,100 casualties, but they were able to encircle the Japanese. So, but at the same time, the Japanese were fighting very hard, caused a lot of casualties to the Americans as well, and they were able to push through the Chicagov Valley, and then the Japanese arrived to the area of Anzuelo, and over there they took the valley of Chicagov, and there were still around 1,200 Japanese troops over there by defending the area. Among them there were about 400 wounded and 800 people that were still able to fight. And once they were in this situation, by May 28th, 1943, the colonel of the remaining Japanese troops, Yasuyo Yamasaki, carried out the last charge against the American troops that was gonna be very, very famous, because by 28th, 1943, dawn, the commander of the Japanese troops still remaining over there, Colonel Yasuyo Yamasaki, carried out the last charge to be able to destroy the largest amount of Americans over there. It was called the Banzai Charge, carried out by them. And the Banzai Charge was a very desperate action carried out by the Japanese soldiers over there, because there were still just remaining 800 soldiers to hold up against the Americans over there. So it was a suicide. It was like a kind of kamikaze action carried out by them in order to inflict the largest amount of casualties to their foes. And the idea with this charge was they were gonna launch the onslaught over the American lines by shouting out Banzai, Banzai, which means long live His Majesty the Emperor. That's what Banzai means in Japanese. And they thought they were gonna die over there, so they didn't even care about the consequences of this charge. They went through the Chicagov Valley, in which they arrived over there. They found a lot of Americans that were sleeping over there. They were resting. They killed a lot of people over there. They captured the hospital. I mean, they were gonna take the hospital. The Americans were able to defend, to repulse the attack. Nonetheless, they caused casualties as well. But the objective of the Japanese was taking the slope of the Ingeniero. So they launched themselves. They succeed because they were able to annihilate American troops. They killed the Colonel Jack Sindens and also the Colonel James Fish that was defending the area. And subsequently, the Japanese took the valley of Sarana, and they got still a lot of casualties, but they were still remaining around 550 soldiers of the Japanese army. And subsequently, on 29th, the American soldiers were able to destroy the Japanese forces. They captured about 14 Japanese soldiers, and they annihilate the rest of the forces. And the Battle of the Adu Island was probably the most expensive for the American army, of course, and the Japanese. I mean, at the end of the campaign, the Americans were able to recover. They destroyed the Japanese forces, but the casualties they inflicted to the Americans were about 3,829 casualties, of which 549 were dead and 2,962 wounded, and 318 missing people. But the price paid by the Japanese was about 2,379 casualties, of which there were 28 prisoners prisoners because the other 2,351 people were dead. We have to say that the most important was what happened here in the Adu Island, because pretty much the 40% of the forces destroyed over there suffered by during the Banzai Charge were in this area. Once the campaign finished by 15th August 1943, the Americans recovered this area and they put more troops there because they didn't have to run against the risk to get another invasion, not only by the Japanese, but because remember that after when the World War II finished, the Cold War was gonna break out and they have to cover every single area in order to defend themselves. So I hope you guys like this video. I don't know if any of you guys knew about this campaign. It was a very unknown, as I say, and this was the first time, or after it was the first time, or I would say the second time, the American territory was taken over by a foreign power after the burning of Washington, or the burning of the White House in 1812 by the British, as you know, but this of course was many years later. So many people didn't know that this happened within the World War II, but this actually happened. I didn't even know, but I hope you guys like this video. Give me a thumb. I hope you guys share this. If you guys have any other information about this, just leave down below here in the comments, give me a like and help me to share this. So I really appreciate you guys to watch this video, and I hope you guys like it, and see you in the next video.